Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our weekly webinar series, Embracing Change. So last week we had Michel Gollet. Sorry, just going to change the view. Michel Gollet with us, just talking about how brain health and gut health can help us in terms of our ability to adapt to whatever comes our way in life. And today we're going to take the game to the next level and talk about what Nassim Taleb described as antifragility. And in order to do that, we have an incredible woman, incredible human being, Dr. Mickra Hamilton. Mickra, let me just, oh, there you are. With us today. She was with us with her husband a number of weeks ago to talk about epigenetics and the whole space. And today we're going to talk about not what is beyond resilience, how antifragility is of absolute essence to health and well-being, especially with what's occurring today. So Mickra, thank you very much for joining us all the way from Austin, Texas. And thank you for the honor and privilege to share today. And we have people from all over the world, as you know, all walks of, all doing all kinds of things. And so I think let's begin by explaining what is antifragility and what does that even mean? So welcome, Mickra.
Thank you, Feisal. It's such a pleasure to be here. I love being able to share with your families, with your audience. You know, when we talk about antifragility, right, it comes from Nassim Taleb. 2012, he wrote a book called Antifragility, and you know, he's a systems thinker, and he was like, okay, we know what fragile means. Fragile means something's breaking apart, right? That's a simple thing. And what he did was he said, you know, if we look at this as a triad, a system as a triad, we can kind of map it along a spectrum. And it is fragile if it's breaking apart, it's robust if it's doing well, and then it's anti-fragile. And he coined this neologism because nobody had ever really considered that the human system could go beyond its capacity in chaos, right? So it encounters chaos, and a resilient system would be that it bounced back to its state, right? Antifragility takes us beyond the state into strength, stronger than we were before we encountered the chaos or the situation in particular. So it gives us a new way to frame what's possible in the human system, because we can thrive through chaos. And so antifragile is basically that, the opposite of fragile, but way beyond.
Okay, so how do you feel COVID has been a gift in terms of antifragility? What are you seeing as, obviously, as you serve the various individuals who are obviously completely on a different strategy of life? What are you seeing? What are the opportunities? What are the challenges that that you're seeing and experiencing?
Well, it's interesting because of course most of it is tied to mindset, right? If I recognize that this pandemic is an event, right? An event that's come down the evolutionary pipeline. And if I perspect it as, okay, this is here, and clearly it's for my benefit, right? I can perspect it clearly as my benefit, and I can address it in an appropriate way that will actually lead to an antifragile state and thriving for myself. Or I can look at it as the most horrible thing that's happened recently, and woe is me, what do I do, right? And so when we approach everything, it's from a lens of toward thriving and flourishing. So we look at COVID, we say, okay, what are the gifts of this pandemic? Because we know that there are many things that are not gifts, right? There is a lot of suffering that is occurring, but at the same time, you know, we've had this global wake-up call to the fact that there are things, even though we kind of knew the potential for a pandemic, did we do anything to really strengthen our systems to thrive through a pandemic, right? And so I think the biggest gift has been, let's take a look at how we're living our lives and the state of the human system. Is the life flourishing? Is the state healthy and vibrant so that if that COVID experience is there, I am going to meet it in a strong way, and I'm actually going to be even stronger on the backside of it if I get it, right? So to me, that's the biggest, right? The biggest gift is our ability to decide for ourselves what is important, what is really important, and that's health and well-being, right? Connectedness and thriving.
So in order to, for someone, I mean, obviously when we've been talking about this to the families we serve and beyond, it's about the preparation for the unexpected, right? And they kept, when this happened, I said, this is what I was talking about. And they're like, how could you be talking about COVID when we didn't even know this was coming? So it's not about knowing what's coming, but just knowing that something will happen. So what are the key elements, maybe just a few, that you help individuals or families to prepare for this? I mean, I know there's the mindset, but how do you cultivate that from your perspective?
Well, first I think it's really important to look at the fact that we need to focus on the payoff, not the probability, right? And then the exposure, not the risk, and the mitigation versus the prediction. So there's a lot of focus right now on all of the things that are not what I would consider essentially important to thriving through this current experience. And so when we go, okay, if we're looking at how to mitigate it, right, we're going to prepare our system in every possible way, right? And this is epigenetics. Every single thing in the environment has an effect, an input to the system, an effect in the system, and an outcome. So if we said, all right, we know we need to strengthen our immune system. We require really good quality sleep in enough quantity so that our lymphatic system in the brain is cleaning out the metabolic debris of the day and allowing us to face the day refreshed and restored. Right? Then you have also your nutrition, and all of these are foundational, as we all know. But the
it's good to be reminded. Let's remind ourselves. It's beautiful.
The nutrition matters, right? We see a lot of desire to choose processed packaged foods that are simple sugars, and they do not carry energy that assists the human system to thrive. Right, so whole foods, and it's interesting because we now have an opportunity to prepare at home. And what that means is we get our choice of oils, so we can prepare in olive oil, right? As opposed to some of the pro-inflammatory oils that we get when we eat in so many restaurants. Yeah. And we can really be very precise. We don't go to the store as often, so we're not grabbing snacky stuff that we have in our pantries to constantly consume. And so, we have this beautiful opportunity to go, what best promotes the thriving nature of my human system? And so, our clean proteins and vegetables and, complex carbohydrates, rice and sweet potatoes, and things, of course, that nature has provided us to thrive. And I love it that you can actually get it ordered in, so you don't always have to even go out and get that. So there are some really beautiful conveniences. On the movement side, it's interesting because we both have the opportunity to not move, if people are staying home more. And also, I've watched a lot of people set up abilities to move in their homes. And they're actually moving a lot more than they did when life was so focused on the doing and this modern go. When we think about environment, it's interesting because people now, we know that 90% of our indoor spaces are more polluted than the outdoor spaces. And in fact, there's a beautiful, very impactful YouTube video. It's called The Indoor Generation. And it's a little 10-year-old girl who talks about what we've done to our indoor environments. And it's 3 minutes, but it's super impactful.
Okay,
so I would encourage.
We'll send it to them with the recording. We'll send
that'd
it
be great.
with them tomorrow with the recording. Okay.
Yeah, because that's enough to just show you what we've created in our indoor spaces. And so we look at things like, what are we spraying cleaning with? Everybody's so hot on let's wipe out COVID. Yes, that's important. And it's important to do it with something that's gentle for the human system so that we're not breathing in toxins that are going to affect our lungs. COVID's already affecting the lungs, right? Yeah. Additionally, we now have the opportunity to focus on keeping air moving in spaces. Like our perception is turning to what can I do to make these new circumstances thrive? When we look at detoxification of the body, it's interesting to take it out wider and go, what am I putting in my body? And then how is it affecting the gut? Because as we all know, the gut and the brain are tied together through the vagus nerve. And if the gut is disrupted, the brain is disrupted, right? So as we focus on everything that we can do to boost our immune systems, to create greater connection, to integrate, and when I speak from a mechanical perspective, it's integrate the breath, the heart, and the brain waves into a state of coherence that allows us to be connected, to stay happy, to find the best that we can out there because it's a choice. And that also affects, right, the immune system. If I'm conspiracy theoried and I'm victim and I'm blaming people for a natural event, not important, right? If I'm looking at it that way, the stress is decreasing my immune system. It's decreasing my capacity to get restorative sleep. And so it's just remarkable the control that we have, right? It's even the whole mask wearing thing. It's a mask. It's not a big deal. It's a mask, and it's perception, I think, first and foremost.
Yeah. So I mean, you touched upon again that element of, let's say, thought and emotion, right, and relationship. Now these three elements, how are they playing a role, right, in our ability to embrace? Like what you're talking about is a choice, right? You're saying we have a choice. And in that choice, we're looking at who is important and what is important, right?
Yes.
And as we do that, we still need to be in that state to choose and not have anxiety take us over, right? So what are the daily habits that can help us remain in that alignment, right? And we'll talk about the heart afterwards, right? We talked about the gut, the brain a little bit, and Michel Gollet went into it last week with the vagus nerve and everything. But so in thoughts, emotion, and relationships, what are the habits, or what are your recommendations?
It's interesting to define thoughts as electromagnetic realities, right? They are. And thoughts have a great impact on the body. It's interesting to actually like kind of kit the body up with sensors and watch how the thoughts of the mind impact the physiology of the body. And so if we talk about sort of practical, tactical things, I always go number one to the breath. The breath is the modulator of life. It carries our consciousness. It's the first thing we do when we come in. It's the last thing we do when we transition out. And all of the doing and the going and the busy creates a pattern of behavior in the physiology, and also creates a sensitivity to carbon dioxide in the brainstem that can keep us out of loving, connected consciousness, right? And so in stress, the breath quickens and it shallows. And so the diaphragm isn't able to really assist the lungs to move a lot of perfusion and oxygen delivery throughout the system, right? And so the best thing is, upon awakening, we can look at what is our breath doing, right? How fast is our breath? Where is our breath? Is it coming, do we always bring it in through the nose instead of the mouth? Because the nose is, right, the filter for the environment. It's the temperature control for the environment. It's the building of nitric oxide to boost the system. And it happens when we breathe through the nose, not through the mouth, right? Yeah. And so always the morning begins with an awareness of what's going on in the breath. And then from that, and a lot of people wear, so I have a Garmin tracker that looks at body battery and stress and respiration and different things. And so a lot of people will look at their data and go, oh, wow, I don't seem to be as good as usual. Data is interesting, but the interoception of me putting it together in my body, how do I feel? How quick is my breathing? What's going on? Because the signals from the breath go, something's off, or all is well, right? An internal peace. And so when you awaken and you determine what state am I in, if you're in a state of peace, then of course you would cultivate more of that peace and then start your day. If you aren't, you don't start the day until you internalize the peace, because your day is going to flow from that state. And so the ability to modulate the breath, so the heart has a breathing frequency rate, all humans, between 4 and 7 breaths per minute. 5 to 6 is most people. And so you count 5 seconds inhale, 5 seconds exhale, and it's just a simple, not push-pull, right? The air comes in the body for 5 seconds, and then you open and the air leaves the body. We're not controlling it, we're not pushing. And then what that does is it creates a rhythm and a coherence with the heart and the breath that then puts the brain waves in alpha, which is idle and ready, neutral, not charged, still, right, and available. And so the breath, to me, is number one. And what happens in breath is the meditative state is easily accessed. You know, we want to often think, let's meditate. And while meditation is absolutely phenomenal, it shifts at least 2,500 genes beneficially, epigenetically. It's amazing. You also can consider that you can carry a gentle meditative state through the entire day. It's not I'm slow because I'm meditating. It's I'm clear because I'm present, right?
Yeah, the level of engagement, the level of presence, the level of focus completely shifts, right? Yes. So, and what about at the end of the day? Do you feel that that's because how you start your day determines your day, how you end your day determines your sleep? So would you also do a check-in at night before going to bed? I mean, we look at it as 2 bookends, and that's how we look at the day. Do you agree with that? Do you feel that the same check-in that you did in the morning to see where you are, maybe something to do before you sleep so that you have the restorative sleep to do what's necessary in terms of, you know, the brain side, lymphatic side?
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say it's a tad bit more important depending on your state, right? Because you have, most of us go very hard all day long. Yeah. And then we come home and we go, okay, what are my tools to wind down from this very high level day? Some people choose a martini, glass of wine. Some people choose TV. Some people choose working out, you know, to make themselves even more exhausted, right? Okay. It's what are you choosing as your tool for, as we said, mitigation, to bring the system back into alignment. And, you know, what we do is we tie circadian and ultradian rhythm together. And, you know, humans are designed that as the sun sets, we wind down and we move into the ability to have restful sleep. What happens in most of the go culture is that the brainwaves are in mid to high beta, and they've got to come to alpha, and then they've got to go to alpha, theta, and then theta to sleep. The brainwaves have to be transited down. And so if one says, okay, the sun is setting, good night, Father Sun, thank you. Great, thank you for your contribution to my life today, to this planet today. And then what do I do with my environment, right? So for me, my environment, the lights go all the way down at sunset, and we don't have bright lights that can mess with the melatonin cycle as we go into sleep. There isn't blaring TV, certainly never in the bedroom, because that's for sleeping and resting and being connected. And then really, what are the ideal strategies for you, for me as an individual? Some people love to take a bath, a warm magnesium bath with a tiny bit of aroma therapy, rose or lavender or whatever, and to pull the system down. It really works because it changes the temperature of the body, and when you get out, great, there's a big shift. Some people love soft music. It's just think, let's not activate, let's deactivate, because the more we deactivate, the more we're able to rest in a still place. The mind is able to stop the chatter. Some people will have a journal book next to the bed that they'll dump all of the still to do things that are in their brain. It takes it out of the brain. Others do gratitude lists or miracle lists of looking at the day and saying, how was this day? What were the wins of my day, right? Because focusing on the positive, focusing on the gratitude is proven, right, to put all of the systems into a coherent state. Yeah. And then it's much, much easier to go to sleep, right? Then what does the environment of sleep look like? Yeah. It's dark, no light, zero light. They've shown that even light on the skin affects the sleep cycles. So no light. No alarms next to the bed, right? You need an alarm, you go put it in the bathroom where you have to get up and honor that it's not the snooze button, right? Honor and go turn it off and start your day.
Have you tried to go buy an alarm? It's not as easy as it used to be to
buy
a
traditional alarm. No, I've never used
an alarm. But even if you want to buy one, it's very difficult because they don't sell them anymore. It's not a...
Oh, so that's interesting, because on one side, it could be that those of us who are optimized are waking up without one and we don't need them. And on the other side, nobody cares because they're using their phone and they've got their phone right next to their head anyway, right? But it's,
Wi-Fi. What about Wi-Fi? Shutting down all the...
it's really important that the Wi-Fi not be anywhere near the bed chambers, at least, right, 10 feet away from anything at least, and turned off at night. Yes. This is, people go, oh, that's craziness. All right. There's a ton outside of our spectrum that we can't see. And we know there's an effect. We don't know the degree of the effect. And so we do the precautionary principle and we say, we know there's an effect. So let's go ahead and just turn it off, so that at night when I'm sleeping, I'm not polluted by that right in my space, right? So that's why the computers, the phones, nothing in the space that's electronic. And even down to, there are building biologists who come into the home and they look at the electrical outlets. So say your bed is against the wall and the electrical outlet is right by your head, and you're sensitive to that type of energy, it can impact the sleep. And, and none of this is about being fearful. It's being armed with information. And then, does it make sense to you? And how would you like to design your environment, your life, for the best possible outcome? So temperature is another thing. Temperature is critical when it comes to sleep. 67 to 71 degrees is the ideal sleeping temperature. And this is Fahrenheit. So sorry, you'll have to do the,
That's fine. No, that's okay.
because in the US, we haven't learned how to do all that yet, the conversions.
Okay.
Yeah, you'd think we would, right? But it makes such a difference. And even if one has to cover over because it's a bit chilly, we know that rest is better. And it's so essential to clean that metabolic debris of the day. And to do that, you've got to get into deep sleep. And so many people are not getting deep sleep. So many people are taking sleep aids. And while natural sleep aids can be beneficial, most of the prescription sleep aids cause a lot of havoc over time. And so best to design your strategy around sleep so that you don't have to take those inputs. And I'm just going to say benzodiazepines. So any of those, but the Benadryl, right? People are taking Benadryl at night to sleep. Not a good idea.
Oh, wow.
Not a good idea. So if you're taking Benadryl, go do your research and find another beautiful alternative, because that's not serving you.
Okay. Okay. And what about in terms of relationships? I mean, there's obviously, you talked about all the yumminess of gratitude and all of that. And what about relationships? What are you finding that is helpful in terms of obviously expression, sharing, openness, but it's obviously easier said than done.
Well, and I'm going to say that it's easier done than not done. Okay. Do you know what I mean? So COVID, this is the other gift, right? Whether it has caused disruption or caused harmony, the gift is we now have an opportunity to look at how are we relating to all things. How do I relate to myself? Do I grant myself grace? Or am I hard on myself and beating myself up and constantly judging my performance, my behavior, etc.? And we get to look at our relationships with our loved ones, because mostly now people are at home and their children have an opportunity also to come home if they're older, and everybody gets to learn how to play nicely together, right? Yeah. For us, we're in a small little glass apartment in Austin, and we have 5 grown men for children, right? Okay. And wow. So you can imagine our wow when all of our children are here, and we're going, okay, there's an air mattress on the floor, and there's the couch, and then people leaving their dishes in the sink, and you go, here are my preferences, but I've got all these people now in my space. It's so beautiful to work through that in a conscious way, to communicate and say, okay, look, there are 7 of us here in this small space, and how shall we relate to each other, right? For us, it's been such a gift because we are all fully present with each other. And only minor little disruptions, because we honor and respect the fact that we love each other and we want to be connected, not fractured and separate, right? So the additional thing that COVID is giving us, children being homeschooled. Now, like it or not, parents can actually contribute instead of to be too busy to really understand what that child is learning, how they're perspecting their worldview. I mean, this gives us an opportunity to really provide wisdom, not tell them what to do, right? You know what you should do, none of that. And then on the intimate side, the ability to reconnect or create a connection beyond what's ever been known with the intimate partner is available, because now we're always together, right? Yeah. And we're either going to really enjoy that, or we're going to be annoyed pick, right? You don't have to be annoyed. You can simply move it over to joy. You can get to know each other better. You can really teach the human system what consistent love looks, feels, tastes like, right? It's a crucible time where we can surround the human system in love and create very strong relationships and then impact on the world through those strong relationships.
Amazing, incredible. So in terms of, I mean, when we talk about antifragility, right, obviously when, Nassim Taleb talks about it, he talks about putting yourself in situations where you are challenged in order to come out the other end stronger. Yes. Now, obviously, or I don't know what the word stronger, but,
stronger, absolutely stronger, yes.
So the question is, obviously now we've received this gift of COVID, right? But even within that space is already enough challenge. Do you feel like, for example, exercise, right? When we spoke last week with Michel Gollet, he talked about, again, the variety of exercise, not always doing the same thing, just like nutrition, the variety of nutrition, right? So is it that, again, when we create genius, we have 3 hours and 42 minutes per day for 10 years to create genius. Now in antifragility, is that the same concept that we need to, on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis, tweak the exercise regime or the nutrition to really push ourselves? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts are the focus must go to this individual human system, right? This isn't about let's get through COVID. This isn't about that. This is the and both, right? It's right now, I am going to be required to take small actions over time to strengthen my system, and I'm in it for the long game. And so it isn't, I'm gonna, oh, quick, let's get our immune system really strong so that we can make it through COVID. No, yes and no. Yes, of course. Let's do what we can do right now to strengthen. And let's put on a new perceptual lens that says that, the term hormesis, right? So it's basically the cockroach, and poor little cockroaches have gotten such a bad rap, but it's long-term gain to the body from small inputs over time, right? And it creates a stronger thriving system. Because it's like with exercise, you tear the muscles down. And you'd go, well, why? Okay, that's stressful. It raises cortisol and it tears the muscle. So why is it beneficial? We know it's beneficial because it pushes our system out of the comfort zone. And then we become stronger from pushing. Now, not to injury. We don't want to go to injury because then we can't do anything. So this is like the moderation and the balance. What is the precise level that's ideal for my system to give it a bit of a push, and also then rest it and push again and rest and push again, right? So what does that mean for each individual? It might mean that there's a bit of aerobic exercise, whether it's rower or Peloton or elliptical a few times a week. It certainly means that it's weight bearing. Now, one of the things, Feisal, that is alarming, and I'm going to use that word on purpose, is that we are moving into an epidemic of bone density decline. So we have an IDEXA machine that actually does the bone density and the lean muscle mass and body fat of the human system. And we've been watching for the last 10 years the age of the weakening bones getting younger and younger, to where now we're seeing an alarming number in the 20s to 30-year-old range who are osteopenic. That's not osteoporotic, right? But it's the beginning of osteoporosis. It never happened before. It was always 50s, 60s, because as you're aware, the medical establishment says you don't get a bone density scan until you're in your 50s. And you know, the thing is, the bones are weakening across the human population, right? And so we need to go, okay, I'm X age, and I don't like that. I don't like that chronological thing. And yet, what does my physiologic age say? Right? What are my aging biomarkers telling me?
Yeah.
If I know that I'm not supposed to have bone density weakness until I'm in my 50s, but I'm 25 and I get one and they go, wow, your bones are beginning to weaken, I must weight bear. I must have protein to grow muscle, right? And so we can, even 2 days a week, 20 minutes in the gym, do moderate exercise, and in 6 months, we beneficially change the expression of 7,500 genes. That's a third of our genome. Simply by doing the moderate exercise. And it keeps our bones strong, it keeps our minds healthy, it keeps us happy. You know, the neurochemistry is beautiful from working out. And so it's, you know, it's essential. And people are going, well, I don't want to go to the gym. Don't go to the gym. You don't have to go to the gym, right, to move your body the way it was designed to move in nature. During COVID, I live on the lake in Austin, right in the downtown, and I watch people in the parks bringing their things to the park and working out on the grass, you know, being in nature with their shoes off, right? Because now we're actually getting the benefits of the grounding of the planet. Yeah. And really strengthening their systems. It's essential. We've gotten a bit lazy in our modern, I call us desk humans and car humans. You know, we get fixed in a position, and we really, right, we can move and get mobility every day, whether it's yoga or even simple mobility exercises that we do, you know, tai chi, qigong, anything that makes you feel good. Dancing. Some people dance 15 minutes every morning. Yeah. You know.
No, but that also helps you move the emotion through, right? It helps you also release a lot of the toxicity, right? What about body work in terms of, like, I went yesterday to an osteopath and the objective was to move through whatever the body was holding, yes. Right? Just help me move it through. I mean, yes. What are your feelings on body work or physio or whatever the word is? What are your
essential?
I mean, okay.
Okay, so this is the thing, right? All of these things exist because there's a need. You know, if we go back to ancient wisdom, this wasn't happening in the same way, right? Yeah. They were doing it because it was part of a beautiful existence. Yeah. It wasn't, I'm doing this because, wow, my neck is so sore and I've got this tension headache. Yeah. They didn't go repair themselves. They just kept themselves in a really nice place. Because exactly. it was kind of like the human manual. The human knew what to do. Now the human goes, I don't know what to do. I don't have a manual. And so, wow, that hurts. So I'm going to go find the specialist because I need help with that hurt, right? Yeah. And so if you just go, okay, what does this human system require to thrive? And it is true that body work is essential in this modern living, both to repair the system, yeah. And move it into a thriving state. So the somatics, you know, we trap so much emotional structure in our physicality. Yeah. Just even if you're angry and your hands are balled up at your side and your jaws are clenched, yeah. and you're holding it in, now we're embedding that in the jaw. And so we've got TMJ issues, and the tension in the system says something's wrong, disease state begins to set up because the signals that our human system is giving us are not attended to, right? So acupuncture, all of the alternative, we call them alternative, it makes no sense to call them that, but all of the modalities,
we're going
right,
back.
that are essential to the human system, they're so amazing. I mean, acupuncture, energy work, body, you know, massage, myofascial, osteopathic. There are so many options for us. And I'll go back to what I always say. We are precise individuals. And what's going to resonate for me may not for you. And so I can explore what makes me feel good, right? What type of relaxation music do I enjoy? What type of, massage do I enjoy? What type of acupuncture? Just all of it. Or am I even willing to look at any of these things? Because I'm too busy. I don't have time for that. We are most important. We are our number one project. And until we can go and say, all right, I'm going to optimize myself, how can we truly give to another? How can we be there for our children, for our teammates at work, for the human collective in general, if we're not showing up for ourselves and really optimizing the expression of the way I show up, right? And I just go self first, and then I have so much more to give everyone because I am whole.
Yeah, I mean, most of us have, including myself, that's how I ended up very sick, right? The concept of self-care and self-love was not something we were taught as children, right? It was perceived, at least at that moment in time for me, as being selfish, where now we all know that it's selfless, because without that, right, we can't give what we don't have. Now, in terms of, I know you believe that at the end of the day, all the solutions lie within, and you're giving obviously a lot of very simple things that we can do by ourselves. Okay, some of the modality you just mentioned now, okay, are external, but the majority are all can be done on our own. Within knowing that the perfection of life is within and all the solutions lie within, where does the heart and consciousness play in from your perspective? I know we're going to go a little deeper, but I hope that's okay.
Well, first and foremost, I think it's important to begin this segment of the conversation by saying that I'm here in this vehicle, right? This is my crucible of consciousness. My essence rides this experience, right? And so the beauty of that equates to the health of this system. There are many who discount the physicality to say that consciousness is only of the mind and that the vehicle of consciousness is not important. And I'm going to say, like I said with sleep is sacred. This vehicle is sacred, and it's the foundation of it is what allows consciousness to express in a specific way, right? So we'll start with that foundation. Is this matters foundationally. Yeah. Then when my human system physiologically is in a thriving state, now we enter a beautiful conversation of expansion of consciousness in greater presence, greater awareness, more capacity to bring in information that we have available to us when we're still enough to be able to hear it, right? And so on the consciousness side, if you think of, I like to look at it sort of as a radio, like a dial. And if it's not quite clear, we're going to really dial it into clarity. If your antenna is clear, your energy is high, your connections are amazing, you're passionate about what you're co-creating, and life is magical and joyful. That's because everything is moving in its highest capacity or in its most refined state that we continue to tweak and fine tune, right? And so as we become more present and more aware, we read the signals from the other person. And we know that maybe something that we said just triggered something within them that was a wound. If we're really present, we could say, I noticed that something was off there. What just came up for you, right? We can be very clear in our connection and communication. And, on a hard practical example, whereas once I would have bought cases of Gatorade and Propel in plastic bottles for my 5 big men's sports teams, there's not a chance that I could do that now. In fact, I can't even buy a plastic water bottle because I know what it's doing to the environment and to the human system itself, right? The impact on the ecosystem. I'm only in that place because I was able to have a greater awareness around the fact that I was contributing to destroying the planet, right? So its consciousness expands because you're in this beautiful place. You simply want to help each other, the planet, the systems. You have a desire to create change, not because it's broken, but because we know that we can make a difference in that lane. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, so I mean that's good because it's grounds consciousness. People think that it's a word that's used and over abused, right? But when it comes to the heart, right? I mean, we've looked at the data from heart math and all the signaling, which is way higher from the heart versus the brain. How can we, I wouldn't say leverage, but how can we expand the heart space to help ourselves be more anti-fragile?
This is an interesting conversation, Feisal. What I've been watching is that many of us don't feel through the heart. We talk about the heart and we talk about love, but often it's what is not love, right? The feeling of connectedness that comes from an open and trusting heart is very different than the feeling that comes when someone says they love you, but they treat you in manners that are not of love, right? So there's a disconnection between what I think love is and what I feel love to be. Yeah. And so, I feel like it's very essential to go, what do I feel in my heart? What is the quality of the emotion that I feel for you, right? What is the signature of that? And is it unconditional? It's first and foremost, can I even feel? Because we've blocked so much of our feeling because we don't want uncomfortable emotions. And so they get all trapped in the body, and then we turn down the faucet of feeling. So the serotonin goes down, the dopamine goes down, oxytocin goes down, and now I'm distant and separate as opposed to come here, let me hold you, right? So how do you get to the feeling of love? And, I always tie it back to the breath. Can you breathe in the love and the gratitude and the appreciation for the things that really matter to you? And as it rides the breath, it informs the system of that same message, right? And so it's, somebody said to me the other day, what does joy feel like for you? And it was interesting because I had to think about it. What does it feel like for me? For me, it was more of a sound. And it was like, the baby goats in the pajamas and they dance. You've seen them. I look at them and I go, oh, and that feels like joy to me. But it also feels like champagne bubbles or, the carbonated bubbles in the system. It's like, it's sort of close to excitement, but it's not excitement and it's not happy. And so I think that as we contemplate, what do those higher vibrational structures mean to me? What do they feel like? And then when I hug someone, do I feel profound depth of that? Or is it, I kind of like you, right? It's so much fun for us to contemplate how we do emotion and how we do feeling, and do we govern it and dampen it, or do we just let it go, right? And flow the way it was designed to flow, to assist us to have an incredible experience here.
Yeah, but I mean, when you read Khalil Gibran's chapter on love, and you talk about pliability, talk about being burned in the oven for the earth's life's feast, and you talk about the shattering of the roots, and you talk about pruning, right? It is moving in that space, which is absolute unconditional love, from how we were taught, right? Going to look at a human being as an end in themselves versus a means to an end, right? And so that there's a large gap. But you're 100% right. The question we always ask our boys is, how do you feel? It's not how are you doing, how is it going, how do you feel? And that question, as you go deeper, what are you experiencing in this moment in time, and what does that, and helping them or yourself move through that. So we've got about 8 minutes left. Is there any questions? I don't see any questions coming through. I guess, Mickra, you're having them flow. They're either in awe or completely trying to catch everything you're saying, like with a baseball glove, but maybe it's not happening. So, go ahead.
I think one additional piece that hasn't come up today that I think is really essential is the precision of our language. Okay. Right? How do we use our language to communicate with each other? And is it empowering us to have a deep connection where we feel seen and heard? Or is it disempowering us and we find ourselves to be separate and kind of repelled, distant and repelled? Okay. And it's interesting, at least the English language is very negative in form. We have a lot of shoulds. And things that really tie to kind of negative vibratory emotional structures that aren't beneficial. Like if I said, oh, I really need to go to the gym. Why would I say that? And why wouldn't I just simply go to the gym, right? So my words show what's going on in my mind and where I am on that particular topic. And so if we all begin to go, what are my words saying about my experience and the way I look at life? We have this ability to, like the poets, Hafiz and Rumi, and we have the ability to really show up in a connected, caring way in conversations that don't create divisiveness. And I think that's an essential piece of what we call antifragility, is if I honor you and respect you, and even though you may trigger something within me, I'm going to wait before I speak and then carefully choose my words. Yeah. I think that, especially in this time right now, currently, it's so important because now we're not stressed from that, and we don't have to worry or wonder about, did I create stress in another person because of something that I didn't mean but came out? Do you know?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, what about the collective, right? So, I mean, how does the collective play a role? I mean, you just mentioned that in an indirect way. How does a collective role play in antifragility? Even though, I mean, at the end of the day, we're one, yet separate, right? So how is that playing a role? And you're seeing globally, right? The whole impact and the experience of COVID is very different in the individualistic society versus the collective. Clearly. So I mean, that's a very black and white reality, but in terms of antifragility in general, how does the collective play a role in it?
Well, it's interesting because it's the exemplar, right? And if, as you take a big complex adaptive systems approach to what you're seeing on the planet, it's super fascinating because those who are taking more of a view, they're also on the long haul trajectory, because it is absolutely certain that our genetics are designed for the survival of the community.
Yes.
Not the survival of the individual fittest. It is, right? We are not designed that way. And so in the individualistic cultures, you're seeing a ton of fear, a ton of projection and blame that is actually potentially going to shatter those cultures apart. And hopefully what we're going to be able to do is to pull it all in and go, look, if we can adopt the we, and we can go, this is not just about this country, this is about this planet and the thriving of the human species, not the survival. We're going to survive, but are we going to thrive? And if we all get into the we lens and go, okay, all right, I think I'm kind of closer to the we, and I want to thrive, and I want my children and my family lineage to thrive, then we make different choices. And we put in systems that are anti-fragile. That's the point. Let's develop systems, healthcare systems, right? Financial systems, political systems that are anti-fragile, that in real time can address the chaotic environment. It's not hard to do. We just simply haven't done it yet.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's actually the last chapter of the book I wrote is from me to we, right? And here we are today, right? In that space of really being forced to reconsider, right? That whole community versus me, myself, and I perspective. So we have the last couple of minutes. What are you want to have a few last sharings to kind of to summarize and simplify maybe, because that we actually rolled out a lot, okay, yes, within the 58 minutes. Thank you very much, everyone. I hope we haven't overwhelmed you, but Mickra is an incredible human being. We've got a little question here, I think. Let's see. We are programmed to cooperate. Okay, that's 100%. So in the last couple of minutes, is there any closing remarks or anything you'd like to re-emphasize or bring up that we didn't touch on, to be able to give everybody that confidence and the choice of embracing what is, to thrive and not survive, and not just look at incremental change, but monumental change in order to reinvent ourselves for what is to come that we just don't know, right? But again, like you said, moving from probability to possibility, right? And moving to being curious, right? And knowing that we have everything within us in that absolute perfection to find the solutions that are needed, right? To live in full expression of our being.
Yes, yes. Well, I'll wrap up by saying we are limitless. Right? We are not fragile, broken beings who are going to be taken out by everything that comes along. So knowing that as a foundation, then you go, what are the strategies that I'm choosing to take so that I can have the experience I want to have? Because nobody's controlling me or my experience. We are sovereignly responsible. And once we accept that, then if something's serving us, we keep it and we advance it. If it's not, we take it down and create something that serves us in a more beneficial way. And so it's truly contemplating, am I loving my human experience? And what I'm loving about it, I'm going to keep, and what I'm not enjoying, I'm going to choose again, so that I don't keep experiencing the same thing over and over again, because I'm creating that, right? And so this beautiful time of going insular to really know, who am I? Why do I believe what I believe? who gave me those beliefs, and how much of it do I value for the wisdom that's there, and how much of it do I say no to because it's not sense making. That's really it. And always watch the breath. Slow, small breaths really create clarity across the human system. And so that's what I'll leave you with. Breathe in peace. Breathe in peace.
All right. Thank you very much, Mickra. Really an absolute honor and privilege. Thank you for taking the time. It's always an incredible conversation. I know we have many offline, not in the space like this, but I think now everybody gets to have a taste of what they're missing out on so thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for your time, again, for joining us on a weekly basis. Next week, we're going to have Henry Chong coming in to talk about antifragility, but from a family perspective, in terms of families and family businesses, and what he is seeing as a second-generation family business member, and also in the space of the digital economy, etc., and what he feels is needed to move the needle as we continue to experience what we experience. So thank you very much, everyone. Once again, Mickra, thank you very much for the honor and privilege of having this conversation, and see everyone next week. Thank you.